Hi, this is Eddie Sorales with the Sorales Group, and today I'm going to give a little class to my licensed real estate agents, the new ones. First of all, I want to say thank you for getting your license and joining our organization. We'd love to have agents in our office, but of course, I'm very responsible for them, and so we have to do training. And so this is a little training class on basically what licensed real estate agents need to know, and basically how to talk the talk, how to walk the walk, and hopefully how to make your first dollar. So let's go ahead and get started. So one of the first things as being a licensed real estate agent is understanding agency. There's a single agency, transaction agency, and non-representation. And so basically one of the things you need to know is client versus customer. Who is your client? Who is your customer? And of course, your client is who you have a fiduciary responsibility for. Basically, you have a listing agreement, you have some type of agreement in writing, and that becomes your client. And basically, most other people out there are your customers, And bottom line is you have to, kind of disclose at first meeting. And in doing so, these are all some questions you can ask to help go into those things. So now we talked a little bit about agency. I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the questions that you should know and ask. So here's a little thing I put together. You can look at it here. I'm going to zoom in here, and so I'm going to go ahead and go over them with you. So basically, good questions realtors should ask future clients. So one of the things is, are you working with another real estate agent? Because if you're going out there showing house or you're talking to somebody, and one of the things you want to do is you don't want to step on anybody else's toes. So basically, how are you working with any other real estate agent? And then if they're not working with anybody else, then you can ask them if you want them to represent you. If you want to represent them or help them, in whatever manner that may be needed. So another good question is, to ask people or buyers mainly, have you been pre-qualified by a lender or a mortgage broker? Have you been pre-qualified? Because, you don't want to work with people who aren't qualified, who can't afford a property, you don't waste your time, things of that nature. And then of course, with our organization, since we're a one-stop shop, real estate, mortgage, construction, we have what's called a business affiliation, So just because they use one of our businesses doesn't mean that they use the other one. So that's another disclosure. Remember, in real estate, you've got to disclose a lot. One of the good question to ask, people here, and this is how I met one of my biggest clients. I just said something just simple as this, and this little question I'm going to tell right now has made me lots and lots of money. Just by asking this one little question: do you? Oh no, sorry. Mine was, do you rent or do you own? That's another question. Or another one I have here is, do you need to sell or are you renting? So if you're working with a buyer, do you need to sell or are you renting? Because that will determine how much time it's going to take or how much time you're looking into. But one of the questions I gave somebody when I was like 25 years old was, I just met a person and said, hey, do you rent or do you own? She goes, I rent. And I'm like, well, let me teach you how to own. And then from there, we've sold her hundreds and hundreds of properties. Another good question to ask, when things you should know, and here's how you talk the talk, is what location are you looking for? How many bedrooms or bathrooms do you need? Are there any musts that you must have for your new home? Is there anything you're really looking for? Whatever else, garages, pools, things of that nature, land sizes, things like that. How soon do you need your new home? And when are the best times to go see properties? That's another great question. When are some of the best times you need to go, we can go see properties? So you and I know when they're off work, so they can go see properties, whatever else. And then of course, ask them for their email and put them into what's called the MLS auto shootout. So basically, you're gonna meet somebody, yeah, I'm interested in buying a house. You probably take them around a little bit, nothing's in there, you put them in the computer system, let the computer system set them. Then when they find something that pops up, you go show them again. Sometimes you gotta, keep showing people over and over and over again but you have to use your time wisely. So utilizing the computer system, knowing how to ask the right questions will help save you a lot of time and effort. And of course, one of the biggest things that you should be doing at all times is building your database and following up. So those are just some basic questions. The next thing I wanted to go over to you is, here at this Rouse Group, I'm really big on two things: knowledge and systems. And one of the things I really like is file building. Having a good, if you're organized, you have a good system, you have a good file, makes your life so much easier and better. And if your head is on right, and you know how to, talk the talk and walk the walk and do the right things, and you're very structured and you have good, good organizational skills and you have a good file, I think you can go pretty far in this business, especially if you learn to ask questions or utilize me as your broker to help you. So, one of the things I want to go over with you is the actual listing file. We actually have these files already made up in the office, and they're usually blue, and they have all the information sheet in here from all the stuff that's in here. One of the things we have is the transactional information sheet, basically the information sheet. The seller's name, buyer, seller's name, the address. You put it in, the MLS number. Just a lot of comments on bedrooms, bathrooms, just a thing you have to fill out. On the left-hand side, we have the actual listing agreement, that you'll be learning and going over. We have the estimate net sheet, So let me talk about, as a real estate agent, you basically do two things. You list homes and you sell homes. And so you're gonna need to learn how to do the paperwork. And basically on the listing, there's a listing contract and there's a sales contract. And these are in English, and you basically, it's one way, but basically when you do an estimate net sheet, that's the math. And so I always, I was not very good with the English, with the contracts, but I was very good with the math. And basically, when you do an estimate net sheet right here, this is the numbers. And anytime you list a house or you contract a house, you need to do an estimate net sheet because you need to say it in English and you need to say it in math. And they both say the same thing. And so you can't have one saying one thing and another one saying another one. You know what I mean? So when you prepare a listing agreement or you prepare a sales contract, make sure you always prepare an estimate net sheet and make sure that you, make sure they match up. And of course, we're always here to review your paperwork. And of course, we definitely want to review your paperwork and before you submit it, especially if you're beginning and stuff like that. Of course, this is the affiliated business agreement that just says that, working with this Rouse Group, that we own a real estate mortgage construction company. Using one doesn't mean you have to use the other ones, things of that nature. Another big thing about real estate, when we're talking about disclose, is the actual seller disclosure, actual seller disclosure. A lot of sellers don't want to fill this out. I'm an investment specialist. I do a lot of investment type properties. Owners never lived there. They don't know about the property. They don't, whatever. So, you want to try to explain to them that it's in their best interest to try to do the best they can. But if they don't know, they don't know. And just do the best you can, get it signed, get it filled out, put it in the thing. Because a lot of buyers are going to want to see this, and of course they're going to get their own home inspections and things of that nature too. Of course, you have the transactional broker sheet, which, pretty much every deal is a transactional broker sheet, unless a seller says, no, I want you specifically working for me, and I want to be a single agent or whatever else, but typically it's a transactional agent. You have the metrics, which is a form that makes not sense to me, but we have to have it in there. It's the metrics form. It's basically, they want us to go ahead and fill this all in first, and then this will help populate into the actual MLS. We just like to go right to the MLS, and we like to skip this a lot. But this actually needs to be filled in and, of course, signed by the seller and the broker. And then you have the lead-based paint, disclosures, things of that nature. That's pretty much it for the paperwork. But before I leave you, I want to talk to you about this other little sheet I have, because this is probably the most important part of this whole class here. Is, this is what we call the left side and the right side. When you have, let's go ahead and show you these real quick in the printer. You got the right side here, and then of course this one here is the left side. And for you agents, we already have all this stuff in the office. We have these files in the office. You know, I can go over it with you one-on-one, no problem. I'm just trying to do a video, try to put it on our website so that you have some type of training and it's documented there for you. On the left side, the left side to me is probably the most important side, which is the transactional information sheet. But you know, it basically contains all your research. You know, before you go out, you know, and get that listing or make that sale or, you know, do whatever, make that offer, you know, you had to do a lot of research. You know, you had to do a CMA, comparable market analysis. You had to pull up the tax record information. I'm sure you have a lot of notes and comments, you know. You have like when the showings are, what you communicated, you know, what's the emails and people's information. So all that stuff is on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side is where you have, you know, all the information that you need, you know, stuff that's, you know, just common sense, your research, all that kind of stuff. On the right-hand side is more your compliance, you know, what you have to have, like the MLS information sheet, the exclusive listing agreement, the seller disclosures, the transactional, you know, brokerage agreement, the affiliate business agreement, the estimate net sheet, the lead-based paint disclosure, you know, your metrics. You know, these are all the things that it's got to be on the right-hand side. This is when I get audited, these are the things they look for. And of course, if it's a sales contract, you have to have a sales contract and disclosures. And then of course, the EMD, the earnest money deposit, you know, that's a big one. Anything with do with the money is always a big one. So earnest money deposit, make sure you get that, put that in the contract. And then of course, once it closes, you know, put the HUD, the copy of the check, the pay stub that, you know, came with the check stub, you know, all in there. Make sure it's all bounded, make sure it's all, you know, reviewed, make sure that somebody else goes and reviews it, make sure that everything is correct and done properly. And then we basically, once everything's turned in, then we actually give you your check. We do not like giving you a check without having all the paperwork and the file done correctly first, you know. So that's my little few-minute segment here. Again, I want to thank you for being part of the Suralis group, joining us, you know, getting your license, you know, basically being one of our real estate agents. And we look forward to doing lots of business together. Thank you.